The biggest threat to World Cup 2026 isn't a construction delay. It isn't a security concern. It isn't a lack of interest from fans. In fact, that's what makes this story so unusual. Because the crisis threatening the biggest World Cup in history is happening at the exact moment football has never been more popular. Interest is growing. Viewership is growing. The sport continues reaching new audiences across the world. By almost every traditional measurement, football is thriving. Yet beneath that success, a different reality is beginning to emerge. A reality that FIFA cannot afford to ignore. Because while passion for football continues growing, access to football's biggest tournament may be moving in the opposite direction. And that gap is creating a problem that could define World Cup 2026. Before we continue, subscribe if you want to follow the full story behind World Cup 2026 as we get closer to kickoff. Because the issue we're discussing today may become one of the biggest talking points of the entire tournament. For years, FIFA's vision seemed straightforward. Make the World Cup bigger. Make it more global. Make it more inclusive. The strategy culminates in 2026. A tournament unlike anything football has ever seen before. 48 teams, 3 host nations, 16 host cities. More matches than any previous World Cup. More countries represented. More opportunities for supporters around the world to feel connected to the event. On paper, it sounds like the perfect evolution of football's biggest competition. And in many ways, it is. More nations will experience the excitement of qualification. More players will participate. More fans will have a reason to care. Those benefits are real. But so are the challenges. Because every expansion creates consequences. And some of those consequences are only becoming visible now. The hidden crisis begins with a simple contradiction. The World Cup is becoming more global, yet for many supporters, attending it is becoming less realistic. That contradiction sits at the center of the story. Football has always been different from many other sports. Its greatest strength was accessibility. The game belonged to everyone. It could be played almost anywhere, understood almost anywhere, loved almost anywhere. That accessibility helped football become the world's most popular sport. The World Cup became the ultimate celebration of that identity, a tournament where supporters from every background gathered together, not because they were wealthy, because they were passionate. That distinction mattered. Passion was enough. But as World Cup 2026 approaches, many supporters are beginning to wonder whether passion is still enough, because passion doesn't pay for flights. Passion doesn't pay for hotels. Passion doesn't reduce travel distances. And those realities are becoming increasingly important. World Cup 2026 will stretch across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The scale is unprecedented. Some host cities are separated by thousands of miles. For broadcasters, that is not a problem. For television audiences, it changes very little. For supporters hoping to attend in person, it changes everything. Following a team throughout the tournament may require multiple flights, extensive travel planning, several hotel stays, and a level of spending that many supporters find difficult to justify. That is where the hidden crisis starts becoming visible. Not because people have stopped caring, because they still care enormously. The issue is participation. A supporter may dream of attending the World Cup. That dream becomes much harder when costs continue rising. And if you're finding this analysis valuable so far, consider leaving a like. It genuinely helps the channel and supports more deep-dive football documentaries like this one. What makes this situation particularly important is that FIFA's challenge is not attracting interest. Interest already exists. Billions of people follow football. Millions dream about the World Cup. Demand is not the problem. Access is. That difference matters because it changes the nature of the challenge completely. If supporters were losing interest, the solution would be obvious. Make the tournament more exciting. Create better experiences. Generate more engagement. But supporters are already engaged. The concern is that many increasingly feel excluded from the experience itself. And exclusion can be dangerous. Not because it immediately harms attendance figures. Not because it immediately affects television ratings. Because it slowly affects connection. The emotional bond supporters feel with the event. Football's greatest moments are not created by infrastructure. They are not created by marketing campaigns. They are not created by sponsorship deals. They are created by people, by supporters, by the atmosphere they bring, by the stories they create, by the memories they carry long after the tournament ends. That human element is what transforms football from entertainment into culture. And culture depends on participation. The more difficult participation becomes, the more difficult it becomes to maintain that connection. This is why conversations surrounding World Cup 2026 increasingly focus on affordability and accessibility. Not because supporters oppose growth. Many fans support expansion. Many fans support greater representation. Many fans support bringing more countries into the tournament. The concern is whether growth is happening faster than accessibility can keep pace. That question has become one of the defining debates surrounding the future of football. Can the World Cup continue expanding without becoming less accessible? Can FIFA create a larger tournament without creating greater barriers for supporters? Can growth and connection coexist? Those questions are far more important than they may initially appear, because the answers will shape more than one tournament. They will shape the future direction of football itself. If World Cup 2026 succeeds in balancing expansion with accessibility, it may become a model for future tournaments. But if supporters increasingly feel disconnected from the experience, FIFA may face difficult questions about the path it has chosen. That is why the crisis remains largely hidden, because it doesn't appear in a single headline. It doesn't emerge from a single controversy. It doesn't arrive all at once. Instead, it develops gradually. One concern becomes another. One barrier becomes another. One frustration becomes another, until eventually a pattern emerges. And patterns are difficult to ignore. The pattern surrounding World Cup 2026 is becoming increasingly clear. Football's popularity continues growing, but so do concerns about accessibility. The tournament continues expanding, but so do concerns about participation. The World Cup continues becoming larger, but many supporters worry it may also be becoming more distant. And that may be the real crisis threatening World Cup 2026. Not a crisis of football, a crisis of connection. Because football's greatest asset has never been its size. It has never been its revenue. It has never been its global reach. Its greatest asset has always been supporters who give the sport its identity. And now I'd genuinely like to hear your opinion. Do you think World Cup 2026 can balance expansion and accessibility? Or are supporters right to be concerned about the direction the tournament is heading? Let me know in the comments below, because by the time the first match begins, the biggest question may not be who wins a trophy. It may be whether football's biggest tournament can continue growing without losing the connection that made it special in the first place. And that is the hidden crisis threatening World Cup 2026.